Okay, so I think what we need here is some examples. Now, I'm not going to use Hamlet as an example because I think that's going to become a little complicated for what we're. I'll come back to Hamlet in a second, but we're going to need some non-Hamlet examples to understand exactly what Oscar Wilde's talking about. So I'm going to give you two things. I'm going to put them on the website, and one of them will be in the playlist here, and I'll give you a picture of another one, so you can go look at them and understand. So the two things I want you to think of when Oscar Wilde is talking, he said that music is the most perfect type of all the arts, and that art never expresses anything but itself. And the way Samuel Beckett put it is that art is not about something, it is that something itself, which when I taught this to students, I had one student in the front row the whole time that's just like, it's hard, it's a hard sentence, it's a hard idea. Oscar Wilde's tough. It's really important and really interesting. So, if you're totally lost, and you probably are, let's get some examples, and we're going to clear this up right now. So, number one, I want you to think about a symphony. Think about a symphony. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of a symphony to listen to. I'm gonna give you a little bit of Beethoven's Seventh, the second movement of Beethoven's Seventh, which is one of my very favorite pieces of classical music. It doesn't have any lyrics. There's no words in it. It's just instruments. It's flutes and it's violins and cellos and woodwinds and all these kinds of things. But symphony music. That's one piece of art that you should think about when you think about Oscar Wilde. The other piece of art you're going to want to think about with Oscar Wilde is uh, those paintings that are just splatters of color, right? You ever like Jackson Pollock is the really famous person that kind of invented this, but he would just get a canvas and he would just throw paint at it like a crazy person, just slashing everywhere. And it wasn't a picture of anything. It was just like colors, all kinds of crazy paint splatter. It looked like somebody dumped a bunch of paint cans out. It's the kind of art that people love to make fun of. It's the kind of art that people think is stupid. It's the kind of art that people go, my kid could paint that. Which it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, your kid could write Hamlet if he copied out all the letters. Um, I mean, most children know the alphabet, and all you need to do is know the alphabet to write down Hamlet. Being able to do something isn't the same thing as inventing the idea of doing it. Um, so those are the two things to think about: paintings that are just splashes of color, and I'll give you some examples to look at, and symphony music. Well, why are these things so important to Oscar Wilde? Because he's interested in art. Um, he says art never expresses anything but itself. So when you listen to a symphony, or when you see a painting that is just splashes of color, most people don't know what to do with it. When they hear a symphony or they see one of those crazy paintings, they don't know what to say. Usually, all they can come up with is, if the symphony sounds angry, I guess Beethoven was really angry. Or, Jackson Pollock, all these splatters of color seem very angry. I guess Jackson Pollock was angry. And then they go, I guess, because people have been taught that the question they should be asking about a work of art is, what's it about? Teachers make students do this all the time, right? They give you a play, Hamlet, and they say, what's it about? And if you took 201, right, they'll be like, what's the theme? What's the point? What's the message? They want to know, what is the artwork about? And when you get a play like Hamlet, teachers will give you some dumb lesson, like revenge is bad. It's about how bad revenge is. Okay, so what's Hamlet about? It's about how bad revenge is, because when you get revenge, all these other people die and everybody ends up dead, and it's a tragedy. I guess that's the lesson. Murder is bad. Um, and people have been trained to ask, what is art about? And they get very frustrated when they see a painting that is just splashes of color, or when they listen to a symphony, because it, it's hard to say, what's it about? You could be like, oh, it's about this girl broke up with him and he slashed, put paint all over the canvas. Like, it doesn't make any sense. They don't have the tools for it. But Oscar Wilde is the tool that you need to understand this kind of art and lots of other kinds of art. What is the Beethoven Symphony about? Oscar Wilde would say, it's not about anything. It is its own thing. It's not about something. It is that something itself. Turn to the painting. Big splashes of color everywhere, all these random colors, splashing, just crazy colors. What's the painting about? Oscar Wilde would say, it's not about anything. It is that something itself. Right? So it's not because the whole idea of here's the work of art and here's what it's about, right, makes it seem like the work of art is a way to get to what it's about, right? It's like if you get a letter that has information, once you get the information, you can throw the letter away, right? That's pretty easy. It's what most people do, right? Newspapers for them. They get the newspapers give you a bunch of information, you throw the newspaper away. But if that's what you're doing with art, you're probably fucking something up, right? Because it's if Hamlet is supposed to teach you that murder is bad. I mean, didn't you know that already? Did you read Hamlet and you thought murder was good, and then you read Hamlet and you're like, oh, well, I learned an important lesson here. Murder's bad. Or did you think revenge was it's a really good idea to get like violent revenge on your enemies? And then you read Hamlet and you were like, wow, I really learned an important lesson. I guess revenge is bad. Art is more important than what it's about. But too many people treat art like it is a vehicle for a message, like a letter. And when you get the message, you throw the art away. And teachers really encourage this because they make students take quizzes, and they want you to write essays. Tell me what Shakespeare is about. Tell me what the Shakespeare play is about. And students end up writing this stupid stuff like murder is bad. Like, you didn't know murder was bad before, dude. And also, even if somebody wanted to teach you that murder is bad, there's got to be a better way to learn that murder is bad than reading 20,000 words of Renaissance poetry in Hamlet to understand that. Because that play is long, and that play is complicated. And holy God, if it is about how revenge is bad, there must be a faster... Students always say this. They're like, can't he just put it in simpler words? Of course he could. Of course he could. He could just say, revenge is bad, and he could write it on a piece of paper and mail it to you. But this is Oscar Wilde's point, is that too many people want to know what is it about, or in terms of Pope and Hamlet and Plato, what is it a reflection of, right? If art is supposed to reflect reality, then just tell me what it's reflecting so I can go home and stop thinking about it. I want to know what it means. Tell me what it means, and then I can stop thinking about it. Oscar Wilde's point is, that's not how art works. You're not supposed to just stop thinking about it. You're not supposed to figure it out. Because when people say, what's it about? Oscar Wilde will say, it's not about anything. It's its own thing. And what you are supposed to do is just be with it. I know that's a crazy thing to say. Look, let's put it a different way. If you see a beautiful flower, right? Look, here's a flower. Boom. Okay, that's a flower. You can look at this flower and you can enjoy the flower. Okay, here's some flowers and look very pretty. There's all kinds of plants back here and they look really nice and they're beautiful, right? There's some kind of different kinds of, look at these guys, little green guys over here looking good. But when you see plants or when you see the sunrise, it's very beautiful to see the sunrise or the sunset or plants or a waterfall or whatever. And you look at these things and they're beautiful and you feel something. I don't know, you can feel all kinds of things, but you know, the stars. I went to Hawaii and I got to do stargazing, and it's amazing because in Hawaii, the lights are all real low because there are telescopes in Hawaii, and light messes up telescopes, Earth light. And like when I saw the sky in Hawaii, it was crazy. It was like I'd never seen stars before because they looked so different than they do in New York. New York's so lit up, you can hardly see the stars. And when you do, you can only see a handful of the brightest ones. But when you're in Hawaii, in the middle of nowhere on a mountaintop, you can see just billions of stars. And they're tiny little things, and it looks cloudy almost with stars. It's crazy. But when you see stars, and when you see sunrise and sunset, when you see flowers, and when you see a waterfall, you don't go, what's it about? What's it mean? You don't do that. That would be ridiculous if you were like, hey, let me ask you a question. What does this flower mean? Flowers don't mean anything. They're just beautiful things that you look at, and that's it. The sunset doesn't mean something. It's not about something. It doesn't have a theme. It's just a beautiful thing for you, and you can enjoy it. And that's you look at the sunset, and you just think about life, and it's a nice experience to have. It's not about something. It is something. This is what Oscar Wilde thinks art should be like. That when you look at a piece of art, you should not ask what it's about. You should just be with it. It's an experience. Just like you would have an experience running around in the world talking to your friends, you would also have an experience in an art museum looking at a painting. And just because it's strange, when you look at it, when you hear a symphony, you're hearing something. No, it's an unusual creation. Not everybody makes a symphony. Similarly with the paintings, it's unique. Nobody ever made a painting like that before. So you stand there and you look at it and you be with it, and you don't ask what it's about. It's not about anything. It is something. It's not about reality. It's its own reality. That's Oscar Wilde's point. Art creates its own reality, a separate reality. And that reality is not about this reality. It's its own fucking thing. So stop judging it by reference to reality. I hope you can see where this is going. Oscar Wilde hates realistic things, and he loves unrealistic things because he says that's good. He likes unrealistic things because reality sucks. Art is better than reality because it's not realistic. I'll see you in the next video.